well, my first question, I have to say that thrillers and or this kind of films is not my favorite kind of genre, but it depends, of course, on the person. And so we always try. My festival, it's based on diversity, so we always try to understand what other people are, especially country related, regional, cultures, etc. And in doing so, we try also to give some kind of uplifting message, that, it's true we go through very dire times, they're very tough, but at the same time, at the end of it, there's something, that will eventually come up and it's positive. So, okay, my first question is really about you, about your, the fact that you started as a musician and then you turned filmmaker. So what are these two, and you definitely create incredible cinema with an incredible soundscape. So how the two professions work together? Are they overlapping? You prefer one to the other? Just tell me all about this, because it's interesting.
Yeah, true. I was a musician. I'm still a musician. You could say that, but I have left it somehow, because what I realized is writing music is the same as making films. You just have inner images, inner scenes when you write music, but you always have a rhythm. Every day is a rhythm, everything is a rhythm. We know the seasons change. We know, going up in the morning, there is a certain rhythm that exists in daily life. There is a certain rhythm, as we sure know, in music, but there is definitely also a rhythm in film, in any storytelling. There is a rhythm, and to have that in your blood, so to speak, or to work with that, it is the same in so many ways, that the transition for me from going from music to making films was very easy, actually. So there is a huge overlap, not only in that I have co-produced the soundtrack for this film as well. It's not only like one-to-one, it's simply the way of narrating, of storytelling, of having a certain color. You have is it a minor, is it a major feel that you have to a certain scene. All of these things, they apply to filmmaking. They are so related also, because it's two art forms that work within the same time frame. When you look at a painting, for instance, there is no time. You can stand there for hours, you can revisit it. It hasn't changed, but what changes is you as a viewer, obviously, right? But it's not set in time, like you have a piece of Bach that lasts 2 minutes and 37 seconds or something, right? That is within the time as well as a film, isn't it? Whatever, 100 minutes or so.
And I have to say that in Bridgend, actually, the dialogue for me are not relevant, in the sense that the music says it all. I mean, the scenes, I think it's one of those films that you could actually just follow, listening to the music and to the soundscape more than anything else. Because they're basically people always looking at each other more than talking. I mean, there's, especially the young teenagers, they're not talking, they're just, swearing, or, just saying words that are not important to them. So is that something that you were really looking for, instead of just having concrete dialogues? In a Hollywood movie, you would have definitely a dialogue in this kind of explaining everything.
Exactly, but that the big, how can I put it? The big why that everyone wants to know, including me, obviously, is why did they do it? Why do they do it? But that would be answering the question, what is the meaning of life? It is impossible. So there are no words. You have to investigate in another language, so to speak. You'll have to find the answers in, let's put it in a different way, in aesthetics, in music, in feelings, in looking at each other, because what would they actually say? It's impossible. It's the question that we all search for. Meaning of life. Why get up in the morning?
Yeah. No, totally. And also the film, it's totally immersive, you know, it's very sensory, you know, the fact, for example, that they dive into the water, you know, it's like a, you know, it's all about codes and rituals, you know, if you really see it in a very, you know, it's very straightforward to me. And so that's the interesting part, that you don't give any straight answer, that you don't, you know, try to manipulate people, which are really, it's the perfect, you know, kind of idea. So every one of us can, you know, can just think, is there hope at the end, for example, or there's not, you know, it's just very, very personal, I think.
Yeah, you know, that's the question that, you know, I've it's 6 years ago since the film premiered, so it's been a while, but I do remember all the Q&As. I think it was at more than 100 festivals. It was a crazy ride. I was not attending all of them, but I was at quite a lot of them, and then you have these Q&As, and there are some questions that are always the same, and that could, you know, what is the dog, what is the ending, what is, and so forth, right? But it would always be, what is it to you as a viewer? Because as I'm just repeating myself, that to come up with a, you know, a straight answer towards the end is impossible. So it is in you that you will find that answer.
Sure. Yeah. No. No. Absolutely. It's in this, the film really puts you in front of yourself. It's like a mirror, really, about your you know, your ideals or your philosophy of life, etc. So it's interesting. Yeah, so going back to codes and rituals, so basically I know that this is a for you it's really a long time, I mean 6 years ago, but you also prepare a long 6 years, so it's been like a really long project, wasn't it?
Definitely, because I remember when I read about it the first time, it was January 27, 2008. That was in a Danish newspaper, and I know because I tore it out. I was on an airplane, and I just kind of knew, oh fuck, this I have to, you know. I think when you choose a subject, it's not that something that you choose yourself. It chooses you. So I knew when I read this article, oh God, I have to go there, and I did. So that's a long time ago. It's 13 years, quite exactly, right? And I was there for 6 years on and off, getting to know the youngsters, writing on their stories without, which is important to say, without doing it one-to-one. So because if I wrote them with the real names and, you know, the real parents and stuff, then they would be expelled from this small community. So it was very important and morally important for me to write it in such a way that they would, you know, embrace it, the kids over there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you always show them as a community, basically, as a group, that it's very isolated, that it's very locked down into itself. You know, that's what I can see from the way they behave. You know, they always do things together, and they don't want anybody to escape. Basically, also, you know, so they have to be trapped inside.
Yeah, I think you have to understand that what if there is some kind of explanation, which is hardly an explanation, because why does it happen in that exact area? You could say, well, that Thatcher shut down the mines in the 80s, and then there is, you know, poverty in a sense that you don't, in the valleys, that you don't see, you know, many places in the UK. But is that really, you know, the reason? Because there are many places in the world where it's far worse.
Yeah.
But what I definitely saw, which is something that I also try to put forward in the film, is that there is a gap between the generations. That, you know, the parents, the grandparents, and so the contact with the kids is not really there, because simultaneously as this happened a few years later in you know, in one of the, you know, the more well-off schools in Palo Alto, you know, in
Yes.
California, they also had a suicide, you know, cluster, as they would call it. They jumped in front of trains over there, right? But it was the same thing, that they have these very well-off, you know, parents, but basically the communication between, you know, parents and sons and daughters was, how's it going in school? Did you, or you only got an A plus, or whatever they would say. Again, the lack of true, you know, loving communication was, you know, absent. So there is some kind of, if you want to look for an explanation, it's never good not to see your your daughters and sons in a loving way. I agree that it can be hard at times when times are tough, but that's important, that there is, that this gap is a problem.
Sure. Yeah, no, definitely. I think that especially in the film, you know, yeah, I can feel there's a cutoff between, you know, the parents that are, you know, eventually old, or they look very old, and the youngster. But at the same time, there's also some kind of imitation game, in the sense that, you know, since they're always together, you know, they want to copy each other, you know, it's copycat. And so, you know, when they see that somebody's depressed or somebody committed suicide, then they feel like they should follow. You know, it's like, because they were saying, so we're all together, you know. So
Yeah,
so there's also
but
kind of
what I didn't get to say, I forgot where I was actually going before, is more, so when you don't have the sense of family as such, as you would normally see a family as a tight-knit group, then they find their family, you know, amongst themselves. That's why they're very protective of the group, and that's why you know, they don't want them to leave. And it's actually also very difficult to leave a small community, because one of the kids that I got to know very well, he tried actually, because you could say, why don't they just move? Well, he tried, but in London or Bristol, wherever you go, you're no one. At least you're someone, you know, when you come from a small village, you're that bloke who have done this and this. And that's why that they are so connected. But what you need to understand is also, in the times that we are in, epidemic times, that suicide can become an epidemic as well. So in a sense that's, and that unfortunately happened in Bridgend. It became an epidemic. And the real interesting, or that's a weird word, but it is, for an anthropologist's point of view, interesting. Why did they all do it in the same way? Like they kneeled down and leaned into death. It's not like the filmic way of suicide that we have seen. They jump from you know, a tree and you break their neck. So, but it was kind of like the method was given, that okay, you can do this. And that's very horrible, because we know it from all kinds of self-harm. You know, suicide is obviously the point of no return on the scale of self-harm, from eating disorder to cutters and stuff. But basically, it's the same. How can I put it? It's the same thing that is at work. You know, that you don't just start to cut yourself, or it can also be group orientated.
yes.
That within a class, for instance, then this specific girl starts to do it, and then there will be some followers, and then they have this together. So it's a very dangerous route.
Yeah, I felt also that it was a question of that they were really looking for some kind of, they were addicted to danger, you know. So they wanted to, you know, jump in front of the train. They wanted to do, you know, drink and, you know, smoke, which is, you know, part of the youth culture anyway. I mean, it's nothing new. But they were like, kind of very acute, kind of very, you know, strong addiction.
Yeah, I lived in Jerusalem during the Second Intifada, where I did a documentary film there. And what struck me was that all kids play war at times, but in war-torn areas, they do it even more. And in Bridgend, what struck me was that the sort of play with death was a major thing. That they also experimented, which, well, many people have done, you know, strangling during sex or whatever it might be, you know. But the game is, you know, is a little you know, higher. So what also unfortunately happened was that some of these games, it turned out bad.
No, definitely. It's in a way also the fact that the main lead, she's Anna, right?
Sarah? Yeah.
Sarah, sorry.
No, Hannah, the actor. Yeah. The actress is called Hannah Murray.
Hannah, she was drawn little by little. You know, at the beginning she really didn't understand, but then she said, "Well, it's fun. You know, these people, you know, in a very bleak town in which nothing happens, they're having fun. They're drinking. They're going to the woods. They're, you know, they're swimming naked. So I mean, it's all part of the youth culture again, teen culture. You know, to just be very you know, straightforward and to just have fun. But of course, then things, you know, kind of went out of hand. And
yeah. So, that's unfortunately the contagious part of it. That even suicide is contagious.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, please, sorry, I've been introduced. This is Mia, my colleague at the festival, and she definitely got lots of questions for you.
Hello, I can't hear.
No, you have to unmute yourself, Mia.
Hi, sorry about that. It happens to do the best. How are you, Jeppe?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. I just wanted to ask you about the process of kind of the research that you've done. Did you kind of like did your idea about the film, about the story, changed a lot during the time you spent in Wales? Did you have like a initial thought about where you're going to go, and has it evolved at all as you were getting to know the people and story?
Definitely. I had no idea how to tell the film when I started. I just went there to see, you know, and ask people and trying to figure out, as we probably all would, why are they doing this? So I went there, many years ago. As I said, I read about it in 2008 and went there after. And over the course of 6 years, I was like, how can I even tell this story? Or am I allowed to tell the story? And at first, the kids were, you know, they beat up journalists and other people that you know, that came to see them, burned down their youth clubs and stuff like that. They didn't want anything, you know. So it was kind of also a little bit dangerous, obviously, to go and ask these questions that they really didn't want to answer. But basically and gradually, I got to, you know, gain their, you know, confidence, and in the end, I based it on them and on their stories, changing it in a way so you couldn't recognize who said what and so forth. But definitely it changed over the years.
So it's like a fluid process for you then. It's kind of like basically working it out day by day rather than coming with a clear idea and then changing bits.
Definitely, because as I said, I come from documentary and I didn't know what kind of how you know, it's all about finding the right language to the story. So the story dictates how you actually can tell this. And why would I choose such a language as a you know, the medium of it? Is it you asked before if it was you know, very little dialogue driven, or there is a lot of music, or more, you know, in a different way than you would tell a Hollywood film, for instance. That was what was said before, right? And that definitely changes. And there was one incident that really changed a lot, which was that a few years into the, you know, my research, I had gotten to know this small group of youngsters, and they basically, I think they wanted to test me, because at the time there were also like 3 other films going on, or I don't know what kind of films, obviously, but they were basically being shut down because they didn't want to, you know, be around them. They didn't want to talk to them, and the kids got quite disappointed with some of them. They said they would come back but didn't, because they needed to, what I understood quite early on was that they needed the story out.
Yes.
Like the media was shut down in 2010. No one told their stories anymore, but the suicide continued. Yeah. So what happened was one night I was out with one of them, and he asked if I wanted to go to this place, this little village where the film is actually shot, and I was like, yeah, definitely. And then I came there, and it was pretty, you know, obviously like a dealer's nest, sort of, you know. I don't know if you know the valleys, but Many of them, they call it valuroids. They're on some kind of steroids. Many of them, they are quite buff. There's a rugby going on and stuff. But I came into this place, and there was this big bloke in front of me, and he was drinking Carlsberg. And Carlsberg is obviously a Danish beer, so it looked very homey. So I came to drink of it. It was before, Corona, COVID-19. So yeah. So, but it looked so familiar. I just drank it. He said, hey, that's my beer. And I said, oh, sorry, of course, it's yours. So put it back. But I forgot, and I drank again. So he fetched one of the lightly dressed girls to get me a drink, like a pint kind of thing. And I drank it. And next thing, I woke up in my bed and breakfast, covered in blood, and my knees were torn. It was some kind of, I don't know, they could have beaten me up like severely, but I think they did this in a way that to show, okay, can he be trusted? That's the positive way I see it, because I asked my friend, I'm still friends with him now. So I asked him, what the fuck happened? What is this? And the only thing, and he still says it is, but you got home, right?
So do you reckon it was kind of like an initiation?
It was, in a sense.
Yeah. The group. Or...
Yeah, because what happened afterwards was that, okay, I was like, I had to go home, but I realized immediately I have to come back very fast. And when I came back, they opened up. So it was like, as you say, it's some kind of test.
Yeah, test, definitely.
And then they told me how they communicated. They knew that the police were monitoring the chat rooms and stuff. So they had this, way of codes of speaking to each other. And I all of the things that the media didn't know of or didn't write, and I was also in contact, which I couldn't because not officially talk to the police, but I got a way into speaking with one guy. That was that they knew they knew some things, but not as much as I was told, actually. So that changed a lot, this initiation game, whatever they were doing.
Yeah, well, but that's what all the film is all about, really. I mean, they're all continually testing each other, the borders, the limit, the boundaries, etc. So it's really interesting that they try that on you as well, because they wanted to see if you could be one of them. Okay, I was really touched by the last scene. Well, not the last scene, because actually there were quite many different endings. So the one in which the forest goes on fire and everybody goes there and they do this ritual bath, they kind of cleanse themselves, from whatever was happening before. And so that was an incredible scene. I mean, basically, the sceneries and the scenarios and everything, it's just riveting, because you really, kind of even in the darkness, even in talking about something that's definitely a dark matter, you managed to show beautiful photography, beautiful pictures. So how did you get together this image? I mean, was it really happening, or you just created, you invented?
Well, some of the stuff is well, they did go there and they did swim there. So it's I'm not inventing like from a blank page, so to speak, but I'm elevating stuff, obviously, because it's also, well, if you cannot understand fully, which is obviously impossible, why they do it and what is this, what drags them into this. It's a darkness that is very difficult to comprehend, but it's a darkness that also has a beauty in it, in a weird way. So I tried basically aesthetically to kind of embrace that darkness that pulled them so hard into doing the most horrible act that you can almost do, which is suicide. So my aim was to try and actually reach the youngsters via aesthetics.
Yeah, that I could see that all through the film, definitely. There's an incredible, the shadows that you use, all the reflections and the windows, the glass, and that. So it's very, very aesthetic, very pleasing to the eye, which is, it's a good thing, in a very gloomy kind of film. And the other thing is that, I mean, I can, telling from my own point of view, there was a happy ending, was there? Because
that's well, I'm happy that you see that. As I said, at these various festivals that I have been attending, it has been like, you know, not 50-50, but some see it as a very bleak ending. Is she like Peter the Piper, who drags all the kids with her because she came like an angelic, like an untouched person, and then she got, say what?
Almost like a savior kind of character, an outsider who comes to kind of redeem them in a certain way.
Exactly, because she's pure, she has love, she has an understanding. Even when Danny, one of the kids, tries to rape her, she comforts him afterwards. She has this extra you know, dimension which is so needed. But there is also the horrible thing of the contagion in it that gets to her as well. And then what? You know, will she then become, like, as I said, Peter the Piper, or will she actually rescue them by showing, you know, I can manage, so can you, by showing love. So, well, however you know, interpret the ending, that is definitely up to you. But I'm happy you see it as a somewhat happy ending.
Yeah, well, in a way, I do, because I mean, she went through everything. She needed to go to hell and come back, basically. That's what she did. She needed to try what everybody did try, and she managed to come back, which is unusual, because all the other, when they committed suicide, right? I mean, nobody came back. And instead, she, you know, she was actually saved, and so maybe, you know, that would be another chapter of her life. Yeah, so I'm definitely a very optimistic person, so I saw it that way.
That's good.
Yeah. So, but yes. Okay. So I think that we'll discuss the main. I mean, there's a lot more to say, but, you know, then in our post-movie discussion, we will go through some more. But I just wanted to ask you again about your new project, because I know that you're writing a new project, and it's good, you know, to let everybody know what you're working right now.
Yeah, I'm in the process of writing a new feature film that is based on my own life, which can also maybe shed some light on why this topic spoke to me, because I was brought up by my dad, who was a drug addict. And you could argue definitely that is just one long suicide, because what is the end of that? At least it happens to many people. Death will happen eventually, right?
Yes, for all.
That's the only certain thing in life, right?
It is, yeah, but then the premature, death, yeah. And so I'm investigating that also because, as I said, I lived alone with him, and my oldest sister was what we would call a weekend child. So after, she understood more than I did, because he died when I was 7 and she was 13. But after that, she got, you know, what you would call, you know, boyfriends with big cars, you know, bad guys, and eventually just disappeared, and is now in some sort of Christian cult. I don't like the word cult, because it has all of these negative connotations. It's not necessarily negative for people who need to have borders. When you're brought up in an environment without borders, then it can be very helpful to actually survive. So it's just to say that's not necessarily, you know, a bad thing. But what is bad for me is that I have no contact with her. So I'm trying to, you know, to do the again the story of what if, you know, what would happen if I actually got to be with her, and all of these things that would then come back to us, and so forth. So I'm working on that now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So do you think you will start shooting this year or next?
Hopefully, we in these times we don't know really how everything goes, but that is the plan. Yes.
Okay, great. Well, looking forward to see the new movie as well. Listen, now I ask you a favor. Can you please just say a word of welcome to our CineClubbers? You know, just whatever you want to say about the movie. You know, the reception, the whatever. You know, it's just a nice thing to say to the people that will watch the movie.
So this is this before the film, or is this?
No. We show everything afterwards. So it's more than a welcome. Yes, it's just you know, post comment about the movie.
it is a post comment. Yeah, exactly. Well, but thank you for inviting me to this talk, and thank you for inviting the film. You have now seen it. I have just seen it as well. I haven't seen it for quite a few years, because it was 6 years ago that made the film, or the film premiered 6 years ago, right? So I've just watched it as well, and it's difficult to say things about the film, because I always think that the audience, it's their film. If every one of us have its own, our own interpretation of an artwork, be it a painting or be it a film or music or as such. But what is obviously something that came to mind now is the time that we are living in now, which is an epidemic, and that's quite interesting that the Bridgend suicides is also an epidemic. So in a way, it speaks into this these crazy times that I remember thinking at the time when shooting, and the 6 years I was in the valleys, that it was some kind of why it was happening quite a lot, not only in Wales, but there were the clusters all over the world, and it was like we had the climate crisis, and now I'm going a little the bridge is maybe too big, but it was like one big suicide, that preempting into what are we actually doing as as human beings. What does it mean to be a human? Are they amping something that is to come, that it has gone out of hand, that the life that we are living, are there too many of us? Do we live this globalization? All of these things that comes to mind was just, okay, yeah, epidemic can come in so many ways, and now we see a global one that is definitely not only tricky, but it's a bastard, right?
There's another relevance, kind of like, as you're talking about the current situation with the pandemic, and with Bridgend, for example, it's very isolated. There is a distinctive separation and polarization of the generational gap, for example, the parents and the kids, and at the moment we kind of like live in our own universes because we have to, because there is that sheltering due to the pandemic. So that's quite relevant, I reckon.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
also, I was wondering about also like generation wise. I had an impression that obviously the time it was going on, the age the kids were, do you reckon it might have something to do with the kind of like that it was pretty much one of the most peaceful times, at least for Europe, and the kids were kind of jaded, and comparing it to the current generation and the previous ones. I'm from Poland, so like when I was growing up, there was a lot going on. I grew up in the 80s.
Oh yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah, it was quite a turbulent time, and like so my parents had something to fight for, whereas like my generation, not that I complain about it, but it was a peaceful time.
Yeah.
And then now we've got something, we stand up, we kind of hear and listen and stand up for things that we find right or wrong. We stand against the wrong stuff. But like, do you reckon it might have been the fact that our generation was a bit jaded, and obviously in a town like this, which is small and kind of like even physically like walled away from the world by the valleys, it's kind of like that sense of boredom, the sense of stagnation, looking at the parents that have not much to do. There is not much story about the parents, because well, that was my impression, that it's just so quiet. And the kids, that's why they jump into the hedonism, the attraction to danger, just to liven something up, just to feel something.
Yeah, the big question that you're popping, be it peaceful times, I don't know,
Define peaceful. It's a very
yeah, exactly. And I think the biggest wars are within families, and we wage them because we love each other, and we, need to make it work. So you could argue, were they, was it a peaceful time? Well, I don't know, but yes, secluded. Yes, the valleys are quite secluded. You go up. It's not like it maybe just be 1 mile to the next village, but you have to go all the way down the mountain and up again. So I remember also shooting, definitely, that I felt that it's not mountains, but it felt like a nature-built prison as such, right? That they were, some in a way in a prison as we are now in this confined space, right? and then you get bored, and kids, they have to, you know, perform and to become, you know, something. And I see it in my own daughter. She's 14, and it's very difficult these times actually to you know, to be a teenager, you know.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, because what does it mean actually to be a teenager? It means that you manifest yourself in the world, right?
You
And
find in your feet, pretty
say what?
much. You find in your feet to kind of like you shape yourself. I mean, in my opinion, you shape yourself all your life, but this is kind of quite a big change because
Yeah.
there's a lot of consciousness and
Oh, you go from being a child
pressure.
into being an adult, which is a very big change, obviously. And how do they do that? Can they do that only by, you know, what we are doing via Zoom, or, you know, by social media and stuff? No, but that has proven not to be enough. I can see that on my daughter, that she gets depressed from not having a physical contact.
Sure.
So the isolation is definitely a part that you could say that can help push people into doing, you know, things they would not normally do. But to say that is the reason, I would definitely be very careful. You know, yeah.
But it's true also that in the film, you know, parents are very monodimensional. Instead, kids, you know, they got all these incredible, you know, ways of dealing, and you know, they're just definitely they got many multiple dimensions, you know, and instead parents are, you know, of course, because you don't actually show them beside the father of Sarah, you know, you don't actually, and probably a bit of the priest, but you know, all the others are just very hidden away, so you know, they just have no life in a sense. So
yeah, unfortunately, that was also what I witnessed, that there was no contact really between, you know, as I said, the generation gap was simply too big. There was one of the kids who told me that he got home to, and he was one of those who had the, you know, a quite good contact to his mom. It was okay, but the only thing that the mom actually told him after his friend committed suicide was that he was standing in the hallway, as he described it, and the mom came to him, and the only thing she said was, "But you're not going to do it, right?" And at the same time she said it, she turned around and walked away, which was obviously not what he needed. And unfortunately, you know, he had a huge struggle, you know, getting to terms with his friend who hung himself in that tree over there that he knew of, and but it's also it's being a father myself, it's the most horrifying, you know, position you can be in as a parent. What are you to do? So it's not that I don't understand the parents, definitely I do, but not to speak about it is not, you know, the right path to take.
sure, no, there's always need to be dialogues, even the wrong one, if you don't say the right things, but at least, you know, you keep on going, you keep on communicating, and you know, that definitely, you know, you have to create a bond. I mean, there must be a bond between a parent, a mother or a father, and their child. If not, that's if not, they completely feel you know, just unattached,
Exactly.
from the world. So
yeah,
well, we really, of course, the movie created lots of discussion, so we really kind of dive into very heavily, but I really, really appreciated all your comments and you know, everything that you said. So, and then we'll hear also all the others' opinion. So, well, thank you very much for now, Jeppe, and let's keep in touch. I definitely want to know about your new film, and I'll be sending you also, if you want, the interview with the post-movie discussion, so you can hear a little bit more.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, and have a lovely day. Best luck with your script.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.